So, 2022 has been a mixed year for some, it's been a bad year for others, and for a small amount of the population, it's been mostly positive. I am one of the few, and in this video, I'm going to go over my main achievements I've made in the year of 2022. For me, this video will be a nice reflection on my 365 days of consistent effort into perfecting my crafts, as well as a timestamp in my game of life. But for you, ideally, you will be able to draw ideas, perhaps even inspiration, from all the work I've put in this year. And maybe it'll also prompt you to do your own 2022 reflection and base in your accomplishments for the year. And if you haven't had a productive year, watch this. Draw some ideas and turn around and crush this upcoming year. In this video, I am going to wrap up 2022 for me in terms of my main areas of focus, aka my stats, and go over what I have accomplished in each area this year. As you'll see, substantial progress was made in every area. I will then rank my progress in each area out of 10, 10 being the absolute realistic maximum progress possible for me. Example, making $3 million a year is simply not realistic for a 22-year-old in my area. If you live in New York, perhaps this is achievable with stock-based compensation if I was a software engineer at a top company in the S&P 500 or something. But for me, in my area, not possible. Next, a short summary of each individual month that doesn't include work will be talked about. Essentially, it'll mention any notable social events or significant events relating to each of my stats. You could call it a specific recap of the year that isn't just, I worked, I went to the gym sometimes, I studied a lot and did exams. I did stuff for my online brand and listened to a lot of stock market investment related stuff. And after all that, we will do a final recap of 2022. Career. In 2022, I added an entire year of experience to my resume. Essentially, I just worked in my field for a year. It's more important than you may think. Many jobs will list 2 to 3 years of experience. So adding this 1 year has helped me pad out my resume and gain me access to slightly higher paying roles with better perks. There's also various skills specifically related to my job, and my job is highly transferable to many other jobs I've seen advertised, so this will pay off in the future. I also negotiated my first ever pay rise this year, which has helped me gain practice for future pay rise negotiations, much the same way I had to learn how to talk in job interviews back in 2019. I also passed 2 exams. My postgraduate study for my career requires me to pass 6 exams. I passed 2 of them in 2021. So adding the 2 from this year, this leaves my current total at 4 out of 6. More than halfway there. Absolutely phenomenal effort, especially given the difficulty and the failure rate of each subject, alongside everything else I had on my plate. Great progress on this end. Only 2 subjects away. If you watch my 2023 plans video, you'll note I plan on completing this in 2023. This would help me keep on track with the 3-year plan I had set out a while ago. Not the end of the world if this doesn't happen, but it'll certainly throw a spanner in the works. But back to this year. Lastly, I gained more connections on my personal LinkedIn account. I'd been recruited for other jobs throughout the year, so it's good to see that other employers are noticing my skill set and that I am advertising them correctly on LinkedIn, which is a skill I learned through the various workshops I had throughout uni. Money for 2022, I earned about $107,000 this year from both of the jobs, well above the median for my area. I'm very happy with this amount, not only because it's a very decent amount of money, but because I was still able to do everything else I was able to do alongside this, aka have a pretty good money stat alongside having pretty good other stats too. Also currently holding more than $50,000 in cash at the moment. I need this for my land deposit, but it's better than most people who have squandered this money away already. I also received a pay rise at both jobs. I obviously mentioned my career pay rise, but we got one at the supermarket too. This one was mandated by the Aussie government in an attempt to keep up with inflation. It makes no sense, but I'll take it. This snippet shows an extract from the Excel doc I had running throughout the year. I basically just input my payslip details so I could have all the information condensed. So I know I said I earned $107,000 this year, but here is a breakdown of what that entails. Some people would just say I earned almost $95K this year, which is still pretty good. but the superannuation payment is still money I earned from work. It just wasn't a part of my gross pay. For those who don't know, superannuation is a retirement account here in Australia. The government basically says employers must put 10.5% on top of your employee's gross pay into superannuation funds, which are essentially trust funds that invest into a broad range of equities. Think of it as a mutual fund that some of your payslip goes into each week. This 10.5% figure will increase by 0.5% for the next few years until 30th of June 2026, whereby the superannuation rate will be 12%. So unless your salary is, quote, super inclusive, you will essentially be receiving extra investment money thanks to the government. From what I gather, superannuation started here in 1992, where the amount was 3%, except for large employers with a $1 million plus payroll. In that case, it was 4%. But this amount was taken off of your current pay. I could be wrong about this. I recall a Heiser Says video that briefly mentioned this, but I've never found any more info on whether or not this amount was added on top of your current pay, or if it was taken off of your regular pay. Instead of that 3% going into your bank account, it went into your retirement account. All of this is to say, I include superannuation as a part of what I earned in the year. I also received $2,805 as a study benefit. Essentially, my work pays off my CPA studies, including my CPA membership. So instead of them paying this as part of my salary, they give me this money on the side once I've paid for my CPA. It's an expense claim / reimbursement. It's better this way, as if they gave me the $2,805 as part of my salary, this gets taxed. So I end up with less than $2,805 into my bank account. So this is another financial benefit I gained from my employment. The $700 plus in discount benefits refers to the discounts I get from food and fuel working at the supermarket. Again, this is not paid into my account. If it was, I'd have less than $700 saved since there's tax involved. I count this since it's a financial benefit directly related to my employment. If I lost my employment, I'd lose this discount. Now, admittedly, the Christmas bonus is a bit of a stretch. This consists of cash I received from a work party, a gift card that will basically save me $50 in groceries, and a ham we got at a certain value whereby I don't need to go and buy one myself. Again, financial benefit related to my employment. If you want to strictly go off my gross earnings, I made around $97,500 for the year, which is my gross pay plus my study benefit, which is technically a part of my salary. And technically, it's even more, since in order to receive $2,805 into my account, I need to earn something like $4,000 to end up with the $2,805. But we shall move on. The ultimate point is I made pretty good coin for my area this year. Obviously, software engineers in New York are laughing at me right now, but you need to factor in cost of living areas for this stuff. This is good money in my area. Defense, not much to say here. I added 1 year of experience to both jobs, got settled into the new supermarket pretty well, which is nice. I was sort of worried about that, to be honest. And as mentioned before, 2 CPA units complete. Aesthetics, honestly, not a lot happened this year. I did have my lowest weigh-in recently since early 2021, which was after my 2020 cut, but since then I haven't been as light as 82 kilos before. I did realize I could do this calisthenics movement that I still don't know the name of, but I realized I could do this at the very start of the year. If you saw my TikTok / Instagram reel, still counts as part of this year though. Pretty cool trick. I didn't get any stronger. As you can imagine, my central nervous system isn't exactly primed for personal records every month, but I managed to keep my strength on key lifts, which is much better than regressing in those key lifts, hey. I also managed to stay under 16% body fat. I think this is slightly high, but that's just what my scales say. And since I don't have any other indicator other than skin folds, which I'm not going to do since I simply don't care enough, I just use average weight and visual cues, I'll just go by what the scales say in terms of body fat percentage. So yeah, staying under this is nice since the more fat I gain, the more I need to cull off, hey. I started mewing as well. I remember pondering this idea in late 2021, but I officially started this year. So that'll start to pay off in the coming years. I made a new gym plan for 2023. Again, if you watch that video, you'll know I'm doing specialization phases for the next year, as I just don't believe I'm doing enough volume all round to grow. So I'm going to take volume from other muscle groups and focus them on specific areas throughout the year. I also started minoxidil, aka hair loss. My hairline is pretty okay for my age, as it's quite common for men to start losing hair even before my age, but I have noticed it's starting to march back, so I'm going to attempt to stop it now. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, after all. So I didn't take too many pics at all this year, but here are some. Nothing that will get me a Gymshark, Elite, or Do You Even sponsorship, but considering the progress I made in other areas of my life, such as passing 2 CPA exams and making 6 figures, I can't complain about this. Here is a snippet of an Excel doc I had for my calories, macronutrients, and weight. Each week I take the average of my calories and weigh-ins for the week and then chart them onto a graph so I can determine an overall trend and see what adjustments I need to make. This last month has screwed up things a little bit since I had a lot of social events being, around Christmas and all, but it's good to see that I can still seem to cut around 2,400 to 2,500 calories. I can eat 2,300 calories a day pretty easily, just cut the amount of cereal and rice I consume, since out of all of my meals, those are the least micronutrient necessary, especially white rice. For example, what I mean by that is I could cut all egg yolks out, which is 30 grams of fat, so there's 270 calories gone, but there also goes a lot of my vitamins and minerals for the day. So good to see I have room to move calories lower and that I can still continue dropping weight even at a higher caloric intake than this. Investor, this one has had a major move this year. Last year, it was as basic as it gets. Dollar cost average into index funds, buy the dip in crypto. Simple shit. This year we kicked it up a notch. I know way more now than I did this time last year, so this is good. It's provided a solid base/foundation of knowledge for me to expand on in future years. Quick thing I'll mention, not sure how the equity in the real estate will hold up. Currently my land has appreciated by around $100,000 since September 2021, which is when I bought it. But it's obviously correlated with the valuation of the land, which can drop. To be honest, I don't see it dropping much at all in my specific area. I have my reasons that I've mentioned in another video, and this video is meant to be just a recap, so we'll move forward, especially considering this video is going to be longer than I wanted it to be originally anyway. Here are just some investing highlights. I also had plenty of lowlights, but that's fine, it's all part of learning. No one gets it 100% on their first go round. Hopefully, there will be many more of these W's in 2023. The online brand. So at the start of this year, I had a few videos up, but I had like no audience. So all of this growth this year has been absolutely insane. So thankful to all those who have subscribed and supported me. I really appreciate it. Not to get all cliche or anything, but the support and feedback is always much appreciated. If I had no growth, I'd still be doing this, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't at least a little discouraged if I had put all this effort into videos when I could have done something else and then seen no growth in the brand at all. This Excel sheet shows month by month progression of the brand. I still have gamification in there since some people only care about the gym side of things, but obviously that isn't a focus. I had mentioned in videos I made in late 2021 that I had 2 brands I was working on. I had feedback from my early subs saying that I should just focus on one, and as a year has gone on, I've realized that this is the best course of action. But regardless, this shows the growth on the socials of both of these brands. Facebook and LinkedIn are basically unused. You can tap into other audiences on those platforms. For example, there's plenty of people in certain Facebook groups you could make shameless plugs in and reach out to them, providing it's relevant to the group, of course. And on LinkedIn, I can find plenty of career-focused people that I wouldn't reach on TikTok, for example. But obviously, I have other focuses in my life. I can't grow every social media account. Once CPA is over, I'll look at this though. These images here show my interactions with YouTubers, as in YouTubers with bigger channels. They're all pretty crazy. Adam from In The Money actually watched my investing tier video, in which he is an A tier in it. First Man actually watched the video that I made that was basically my 2021 recap. And turns out Men's Maxing actually knows who I am. He had seen the video I made a while back, Pretty crazy, especially since his channel is on a one-way trip to the moon right now. In fact, he's the one who got me onto minoxidil. I had heard of it before and hair loss treatment methods, but I never realized how easily accessible minoxidil is until I saw his looks maxing video. I was like, oh wait, he just buys it? Let me suss. Oh shit, my local chemist has it in stock. I'll start this week. So, just letting you know, a future famous person knows my channel. Here are some screenshots I found around the middle of January 2022. Shows how far the brand has come. Here are the logo updates with the brand. My very first one was just a split image of me at the gym and me graduating my bachelor's degree, but it didn't look like a proper brand per se. One money/budgeting related Instagram page I followed recommended Canva to me after I asked them what they used for their business logo. And yes, this channel was originally called Game of Life, but it was a little annoying since I think there's a board game with the same name. Wasn't sure if I was going to run into copyright issues if the brand ever got big enough. Plus you had to use symbols and numbers and shit in your emails and social media handles since there's already other Game of Life pages and emails out there. If you caught my January 3rd and I'm 7 days ahead or whatever video I made at the start of this year, you'll know that I actually got the name idea on December 31st, 2021. I was on lunch break listening to some YouTube video talking about like careers and jobs and shit, and at some point in the video the words gamification and work were mentioned. I had a eureka moment. Gamification, not game, that's the name. That day I worked till 4 o'clock at the office. We shut early because it was New Year's Eve. I then went to the beach for the old vitamin D sesh, then I went to the gym, and then I went home and rebranded. A very productive day whilst everyone was out. I had to do this ASAP as I was worried someone else was going to snag the name. Thankfully no one did. So anyway, that was my logo until after my channel name gained some traction. A viewer by the name of Bart reached out to me, thanking me for my recent video as I think he said it lit a fire under his ass to get stuff done. And in return, he custom made a logo for me, as in one of my vids I mentioned I had no proper logo. So he did that for me. What a legend. Not sure if he still watches my stuff, but Bart, if you're watching, really appreciate it, bro. The logo did get changed in August 2022 as I feel this current one encapsulates my brand more. But since I liked the logo Bart did for me so much, I just had to still have it in the brand image. And then this design is thanks to Anu-san, my thumbnail guy. He also reached out to me around the same time Bart did, aka the same time my channel gained most of its initial traction, but I'll talk more about that later in the video. Here is basically the same thing you saw, but for the gym one. That was called Gains of Life originally, since I wanted it to be similar to the Game of Life, and I figured gains was a close enough word. And then now Gainsification is obviously a play on gamification. The second logo was actually from a Fiverr contractor. Again, I liked it so much that I just had to keep it in the updated logo for the brand. Last stat, mental health. Not much to talk about here, as I have the privilege of mine being great. There are plenty more qualified people out there to talk on this topic than I am, but what helped me is getting fit, having stuff to strive towards, and hitting goals. I've hit so many goals I've set out for myself that I feel I can take on the world now. These aren't even just goals recently. Like in 2017, I wanted to switch basketball teams, which is a lot bigger of a move than it sounds like. I managed that and I won a championship in that first season with the new team. I wanted to pass my degree, and I did despite all the setbacks. I wanted to work at Good Life as a PT, and I did that. I wanted to pass a graduate certificate during the COVID lockdowns in 2020, and I did that. Achieving goals you set for yourself makes you feel like you can do anything. It helps in ways that can't be explained. You need to feel it for yourself to understand its impact on you. Here we've got a snapshot of my increase in all 7 stats for the year. Individually, you may think, hey, that's not so great, I've seen better. Maintaining your physique for the year isn't impressive, many people grow throughout the year. Slightly over 6 figures is decent, but there's many others who make way more. Passing 2 exams is good, but some people pass 6 in 1 year when they really grind out their studies. But doing all of this in the same year? Pretty good effort. The diversified grind. Level up several stats, don't be a one-trick pony. The hip thrust thing mentioned there is a lifetime PR though. I've never hip thrust that kind of weight before, so that's a noteworthy achievement for the aesthetic stat. So next up, we've got rankings out of 10 for each of these stats for the year. We'll delve into my rationale for each number shortly, but keep in mind there's no mathematical formula for these, they're just rough figures I've come up with. So career is 8 out of 10, pretty good progress on this. Working in the field and continuing professional development definitely helps. But this could be a 10 out of 10 if I worked for a large corporation, which would provide skills and connections you can't get anywhere else. The work would be shit, no work-life balance, my other stats would get wrecked, but it would bump up the career stat for sure. And finishing your CPA in 1 year is entirely possible. You can do 3 units per semester, and with 2 semesters and 6 total units, you can get it done in a year. A very small minority do this. I've seen it on Facebook groups and LinkedIn, but you'll find that they did absolutely nothing besides work, study, and maybe look after family. No gym, no stock market, no online brand, no second job that is a borderline social event like mine is, just career. Now, if that's your preferred method of grinding, just getting study out of the way quickly, that's fine. I'm not saying you need to spread yourself out, but for me, I personally prefer spreading myself out and incorporating study into my life and around everything else I do, rather than just making my whole life about study and then having to ditch other interests and hobbies in exchange for maximizing that stat. If you want a video game analogy, it's like maxing out one particular stat but having nothing else in other areas. Example, you maximize your attack stat, but now you have no speed, no defense, no special attacks, nothing else. A good Pokemon example I can think of is Rampardos. Maximized attack stat, but it's got no defense and is too slow to actually get an attack off. Or it's like Electrode, maxed out speed stat, but it can't really dish out a lot of damage, nor can it survive any earthquake attacks from any Pokemon with a somewhat decent attack stat. As for money, I consider this an 8 out of 10 too. One may argue this should be around 5 out of 10 since I'm around the Aussie average. However, the keyword here is average, not median. There are a lot of high rollers in Australia that work in Canberra or the mines that drastically drag the average up. Not to mention, this average includes all age groups, from 60-plus-year-olds in Parliament who earn stupid amounts of money to do nothing but impose their outdated policies, to miners who earn 200,000 plus a year in exchange for their soul. If you look at the median income, I'm quite above this. The only official statistic I could find for the median income was 58,000, but this was for 2020, and it was also released this year, 2022. Not sure why they released this median income data with 2020 stats this year, but oh well. Point is, I earn decent amount for my age and area this year. I have seen some salaries for 130,000 for my age. These jobs aren't in my area, you need to commute an hour plus to Melbourne for those jobs. I know of some people who move to my region but still work in Melbourne since they can't find any jobs that pay what their Melbourne job is paying here in this region. For example, they earned, 100,000 at their job in Melbourne, but the closest they can find is $75,000 in my region, so obviously they're going to still work in Melbourne for that. Although $130,000 salaries aren't in my region, commuting up to Melbourne may be a worthwhile trade-off if I was offered a job with a salary such as this. So it is possible for my age. It's rare, but it's possible. Same deal with $160,000, obviously even rarer. But if you earn this income at my age, in my 200-kilometer radius of where I live, you'd be maxing out the money stat. Again, I must reiterate, you need to factor in location. If you live in New York, California, Toronto, etc., this income is likely pretty common, but everything, except for housing, is substantially cheaper in my area. Remember to factor in cost of living and location when you hear of these larger salaries. That $74,000 average for Melbourne is something I found when trying to grab statistics for income levels. I find it hard to believe the average in Melbourne is so low. Shit's expensive up there. My guess is this includes outer suburbs that probably aren't as costly as near the CBD, and thus they pay less. Defense is pretty much practically maxed out. Both of my jobs are in high demand and are extremely stable, but they're not the utmost stable jobs possible. Teaching and nursing hold that crown, so this can't be 10 out of 10, but it's pretty darn close. Aesthetics is 7 out of 10. This year could have been much more worse for me. It could have also been a bit better. Not that I mind overall, I'd rather have passed 2 exams, made 6 figures, gotten pretty good at investing and grown an online brand instead of having none of those things but having bigger biceps. You can't max out every stat at the same time. A diversified grind after all. I wouldn't say my year was average, like an average 5 out of 10, since I did go to the gym way more often than most people who work full time, let alone everything else I do. Again, these are just numbers I've thrown out there. Investor was 6 out of 10, had a really good year with picking up investment terminologies and understanding the economy and the stock market as a whole. I'm a completely different investor than I was at the end of 2021, but I can't rank this higher than 6. There is so much to learn here and I have a lot to learn yet still. Also, technically, I've only really been in the entire stock market game for less than a year. I can't justify ranking higher than a 6, but 5 out of 10 seems too low given how much I've learned this year. Online brand 3 out of 10, the lowest of my rankings, but rightfully so. My brand has actually gained some traction, so it can't be a 1 out of 10, and I've managed to post a fair bit of content, so it's not a 2 out of 10. However, although I am over the moon with the growth I've managed this year, I have seen much faster growth before. That's fine though. As mentioned, I have many other goals on my plate. Obviously, I can't focus on this 100%. Mental health, 9.9 out of 10. Put things into perspective. I have it so much better than most people. Many others struggle and that's really unfortunate. I can't rank myself lower as I know most others have it much worse than I do. So ranking myself anything close to average is an insult. But I also can't rank this a 10 out of 10. No one is truly content and satisfied, are they? Would be nice if I was an only child, trust fund baby that didn't have to work, but guess what? That's not my life, so no point dreaming about that. I'll create my own dream and make that a reality. Now that all the stat rankings are out of the way, I'm going to briefly go over any unique events in each month. Starting in January, I started off the year strong, working 9 hours on the public holiday. I took annual leave from both jobs in the middle of Jan as my Christmas break. If you saw my other vids released around early 2022 or late 2021, you'll know that I don't really get much time off at either job during Christmas time. I also caught up with some primary school friends around this time. It was good to see them again. Now this one is quite noteworthy. The first man video that got my initial traction was uploaded around this time. Let's suss my Word doc diary entry around this time. The Saturday I worked, and then I saw this girl I knew in the gym. I hadn't seen her in a while. But anyway, during one of my rest periods in between benching, I saw a notification for a first man video on proving the male advantage. Something clicked in my head. I'm like, wait, these guys don't have any other proof other than first man. I can help them out. I was going to leave a comment right then and there, but I knew I wanted to make it super detailed so people knew I wasn't just making up shit. So I finished gym and got home. The entire time I was thinking shit. Someone is going to beat me to the comment or I'm going to comment too late. But alas, I was not too late. I started to see some subscriber growth which blew my mind. This diary entry here was later in the month. At the supermarket gig, I had a nice chat in the tea room with some other staff as opposed to me just sitting there with my headphones in the whole time. But you'll note the subscribers here were just going up and up. It was actually insane, such a crazy moment. If only I could replicate that again. Here is just another snippet of my brand before it started gaining traction. Oh, how far we've come. In February, I had a social event with a friend. It was nice. Skipped a gym session for it, but who cares? I also went in for a clinical trial, which I failed. My lung capacity wasn't quite enough, and that's just what I get for skipping cardio. But I think I mentioned this trial in another video too. I also had a friend ask me for help in losing weight, so I made a small return to personal training in the meantime. I also made some solid progress on my study for my CPA tax unit. As for the online brand, I had a couple people reach out to me. I already mentioned Bart, but I also had Anu-san reach out to me in terms of thumbnails. Very grateful for both of these guys. as changing the logo and actually having thumbnails that look good are massive improvements to my brand. In March, I got the social media of this girl who would come into work a lot and chat with me. She worked in like a nearby cafe or something, but after all those years, yes, years, our conversation led into a direction where exchanging socials wasn't awkward. So yeah, I don't know, you could say something about life setup here, just improving yourself in private, and the opportunity to show your accomplishments arises in random situations. Now, this didn't go anywhere, but it's just something I thought I'd mention. At my office job, my HR manager left, so that was pretty sad. She's the one who landed me this fantastic role I have. I also got custom made apparel for my brand that I just wear sometimes to remind myself of what I've managed to achieve. I had some issue in my car that was super annoying and inconvenient. Oh, and there was also this new regular at the gym. I saw her around a lot at the supermarket too. Another chance of life setup? We shall see. Now, before I get any comments saying this is creepy, I don't think so. I just made an observation that there was a new regular at the gym. Same thing happened at my old gym. You'd see a new person, you're like, oh, never seen them before. And then you see them a lot more often, you start to know each other as gym regulars. It's a common thing. At the other gym I went to before this one, I actually made quite a few friends this way. Randomly, you would see someone rock up on one day you'd never seen before, and you'd see them constantly at the gym thereafter, and eventually you just exchange socials and start chatting from there. This happened with both men and women, but just saying that this whole new gym goer thing, it's actually very common. And if you go to the gym at roughly the same time every day, well, not every day, but if you go to the gym roughly the same time, whenever you do go, you'll know that this is a very common thing. In April, I snapped a 41 day in a row work streak. I had my dad's 55th dinner where I saw a friend I hadn't seen in years. He was one of my good mates at my supermarket job in years past. Good to see him again. The HR manager that left last month, we had her farewell dinner this month. It was a nice send-off. I also had a party for a primary school friend, which I literally hadn't seen her in 10 plus years, and I was still invited to her 25th, so that was nice. Nice cruisy little party. At the time I was annoyed though, because this was really close to my exam, but I only stayed a few hours and it wasn't too far from my house, so that's good. Normally parties I go to are like 30-40 minutes from my house, but because this one she had in our hometown, it took me like 5 minutes to get home, so that's always good. Keep in mind my hometown is like 30 minutes away from any main sort of population centre. I had my tax exam this month too. It was a bit of a roller coaster getting this thing done, which is elaborated in the next slide. Basically, my connection at work wouldn't work on Wednesday, so I had to reschedule. Thankfully, they managed to have a location the next day, albeit in Melbourne, but that's fine, it is what it is. It was kinda a fun day out in retrospect. I planned on watching Sonic 2 as a way to celebrate my exam being done, but since it was delayed, I just went to see it the Wednesday night anyway. I was like, I've done enough study, and I'm super stressed right now, I could use a mental switch off. I really like the movie. And the end song has become a theme for me when thinking about this exam. The Thursday, it was a little hassle getting to the exam location. Solid 1.5 hour drive, no big. Anyway, you can read the events that unfolded if you want. I also made a TikTok about this too if you so care to watch. So anyway, the exam finishes, I replied to this message from a girl I was talking to that I hadn't responded to in a while, because, exam study, Sigma grind set. I replied after the exam was done. I walked the 15 minutes back to my car from the exam location. I checked my phone and she's already responded. And basically, she's saying she's seeing this other guy and doesn't want us to keep talking as she doesn't want him thinking she's untrustworthy, especially given the fact that we were practically flirting a lot. That's fine, I totally understand. I'd want a girl I was getting serious with to do the same thing. So I was like, yep, all good. I'm still going to cheer you on from the social media sidelines. Good luck with your studies. I will still be watching all your Snap and Insta stories as usual. And she basically reciprocated the same feelings. So after that, I drove all the way home just playing Stars in the Sky by Kid Coochie on repeat, which is what I meant by the song is a theme for this exam. You know those songs that make you think of certain locations, certain times, maybe even certain people? That's it. I also listened to this horror sort of YouTube video after I had my Hungry Jack's dinner. If you haven't seen that video listed at the bottom of the diary entry, I recommend it. Super interesting. So that was a long month. In May, my old high school friend did a cover shift at my store. So this was essentially us reuniting, which was nice. We actually still catch up now. In fact, I caught up with him on New Year's Eve. But before this, we hadn't spoken since like 2017. Long story, I'll save it for another video. I also made a new friend at work, and she knows me because of my brother. She'd seen me at work before, but I don't think I actually knew who she was until then. I also discovered that there is an all-you-can-eat buffet around my region where I can get 50% off because of my employee discount at the supermarket, because we're owned by the same company. So that's very handy to know. I'll be abusing this when I go back to bulking. Had a few birthday parties, got sick for the first time since October 2019. And yes, I know this because at the time I had a very jam-packed week of job interviews in Melbourne, personal training, a fascia course in Melbourne, supermarket shifts, gym, etc., which caused me to get super run down, hence why I can remember the time frame. If you want to get more specific, it was around the 27th of October 2019, since this was roughly when the interview and fascia course took place. So, first time being sick in 2.5 years. I think I got this from someone at one of the parties, but I don't know. I was also meant to get free skin needling, but the therapist cancelled on me twice. I worked 7 or 3 both times in order to get to the clinic before they closed. And so I didn't need to take out unnecessary annual leave, but this requires me to wake up at 5:30 AM to get to work on time. I lost sleep for no reason. I was not a happy camper. But I guess it was supposed to be free, so at the very least it's not like I paid for a cancelled appointment. Like, yeah, you'd get a refund and all that, but anyway, we'll move on. In June, I got the exam results for that most recent exam. I passed somehow. So obviously the incorrect marks I thought I got were correct, so that's a load off my mind. Someone from marketing in my office job resigned. Now that sucks, because he was the only one around work that was around my age. My previous therapist for laser hair removal quit, so I got a new one. Someone left the supermarket job too. I worked with him for years. It was a shame to see him go, but I'm happy for him, because he hated it there, Lamar. Learned a lot about hormones in this particular month, so that'll come in handy in the future. Saw the new Jurassic World movie. I kind of liked it. I didn't mind the locust plot, but after seeing all the reviews slaughtering this, I was like, hey, yeah, what the fuck? A dinosaur movie with a plot focused on locusts? Okay. And in this month, I also called one of my bosses to discuss a pay rise. In July, I had the aforementioned pay rise. I hung out with a friend that I reunited with at the supermarket. I made my first foreign exchange trade, and I also made my first foreign exchange trade loss as well. How quickly I learn. I strained my neck at the gym, which resulted me in getting my first ever physio appointment. But I only got this because the supermarket job needed it. I said to them on the Thursday or Friday before the weekend that I'd have to do light duties this weekend, but they said, hey, take this weekend off until you're fully recovered, as we can't have any workplace injuries, which is fair enough. I also went on my holiday this month, which I won't go over as I have a video that goes over this already. The middle of August, I returned from that holiday. I had a laser session on one of those days, and I saw an old friend who was down on his luck. It put things into perspective. I have it very good compared to the average person. We also had a new temporary manager at the supermarket. Someone at the gym also flunked a bench AMRAP, which I helped him with. A wholesome gym bro moment we had there. I remember failing a 55 kilo close grip AMRAP bench press years and years ago. The guy who helped me up was like, we've all been there. And indeed we have. Wake me up when September ends. Actually don't. This was an alright month. One day I caught this girl from work straight up staring at my biceps. And when she realized I was looking / caught her, she just smiled and looked away. Girls don't like guys who work out my ass. I also caught up with an old friend from primary / high school. No bad blood, we just went our separate ways, as most people do. Good to see him again too. And in fact, we caught up at the supermarket. I was just doing my job in some aisle and he just stopped to have a chat. So it wasn't technically a social event, but hey, that's pretty good. A social event while getting paid for it? Hey, I'll take it. I also made a new friend at the gym. He asked me to spot him during bench press, and later in the workout, he came up to me talking about how impressive the pull-ups I was doing were, since no one at my gym does them weighted. My pull-ups haven't even gone up. In fact, they've gone slightly down from my uni days, but at least I still have majority of the strength. Had a few social events and bought a few games in this month as well. I had all these games on the PlayStation 4 already, but I wanted them on the Switch since my PS4 is basically falling apart. And if I get an itch to play these games while listening to audio on my YouTube videos during my editing process, I'll have these games available. So just real quick, I don't really play video games at all. I'll only play them if I'm doing something else. So for example, I'll record the voiceover for these videos, and then obviously there's some audio issues here, I stutter here and there's long pauses here, so I'll cut them out. But while I'm listening to that, I'll be playing a video game. It's no different from you listening to music while you do something else. And obviously I don't do this when I'm driving in the car or at work because I need to be in front of my specific laptop so I can actually edit the audio. So this is basically the only time I will play video games. But I don't know which video game I'll want to play, so now I have all of them to choose from. If I buy the Spyro trilogy, but I randomly get a craving to play Crash Nitro Fueled, and I've only got Spyro there, then that's going to be a bit of a pain. So stop that from becoming an issue, just buy all the games. And I bought it from a parent company that is also owned by the supermarket company I work for, so I got a discount on these. So that's pretty good. October was hectic. Made some major stock trades, had my 4th CPA exam, which was rough. Hated this exam, was just glad it's over. Lots of stressful study too. Had quite a few social events after the exam. These were planned anyway, but basically within 2 days off my exam, a friend of mine committed suicide, a friend of mine had a seizure in his sleep, and another friend had only a couple of weeks left to live as he had terminal brain cancer. So these social events made me realize that it's okay to take time off the grind here and there to socialize. You'll cherish those moments in due time. In November, I had a brief chat with this new girl at the gym. We both train legs on Wednesdays, so I think that's how we got started chatting. Who knows? Had a few other interactions in the gym too. Someone asked me to teach him how to do a particular ab movement. He must have thought I knew what I was doing, which was quite flattering. There was quite a few other people in the gym, but he asked me. And I had one of my supermarket co-workers' dads tell me that some of the stuff I'm doing in the gym is, quote, impressive. Another flattering gym moment. Made some good money on Hawkish Pal at the FOMC in early November, but all of this and a lot more got reversed with a reckless CPI gamble I had. If I had held off on one day, I'd be up $4,000 instead of being down $4,000. Very annoying, but yeah. Also, got my exam results in this month. I passed. I remember getting the notification that exam results were up at a traffic stoplight on the way to work. I pulled over after a couple of minutes to check. I cried tears of joy when I saw that I passed. I also screamed with excitement. I couldn't believe it. All that hard work paid off. That was insane. And we also said bye to the old supermarket store this month. I had worked there for 10 years, the end of an era. All good things must come to an end. Now in December, nothing super noteworthy, I worked, gym, etc. We had the whole Christmas downtime, which for me is a grand total of a couple of days. Everything just seems way more chill at this time of year, but other than that, nothing too noteworthy. So here are all the hours I worked, the shifts I did, the gym sessions I had, the days I did at least some study, the days I did at least something for the online brand, the amount of social events I had, and the nights where I had extra aesthetics work done, such as Botox, laser, or dental. Not all hours are accurate. So if you're like, wait, how did you manage this amount of hours on the brand, for example, but you also had 8 hours of gym and a full week of work? Well, in that case, I've probably rounded the hours up too much. But you can see a general theme of where my time was spent each week. I don't actually track the time I spend studying or doing stuff for the brand. The gym hours may be off by 10 to 15 minutes here and there, but it's close enough. And work hours are easy to track since I have the same contract and I know how many hours I've worked. Very productive year if I don't say so myself. You can tell when my exams were based on how much the study ramps up and the gym/business stuff ramps down. Anything in blue in columns C and D are if the values are 58 and above or 7, which implies I worked a full week there. Sometimes I worked 7 days but had a shorter day at the office or supermarket for some reason, and some days I worked 7 days but had a public holiday off the office, but instead I worked at the supermarket, for example. The yellow cells are where I worked a full week at the office. The green cells are weeks where I worked the full weekend at the supermarket. Each extra work or social event has a note attached to the cell that indicates exactly what that extra work was or what the social event was. Like if I had my 15th laser session, that would be stated on this note. If I hung out with my friend Joe, I'd have hung out at Joe's house or dinner with Joe, for example. Going over this document is a nice summary of where my energy was spent this year. This second last Excel doc I'm going to show you is essentially a more condensed version of the grind. It just shows how many shifts I worked, how much I earned, which is not including super or benefits or anything, how many gym sessions and how many YouTube subscribers I had, since that's the main focus of my brand. But yeah, this is just a basic summary of the grind. As you can tell, I love my Excel docs. This one takes me 3 to 5 minutes to update at the end of each month. It's as simple as putting in a few figures from my other income streams Excel doc and counting the gym sessions on my calendar alongside the shifts in the calendar on my phone, and hey presto, you have a summarized Excel doc for your grind for the month. And the last Excel document, this is a comparison of my routine I made for 2022 at the end of 2021 and the routine I made for 2023 at the end of 2022. There is a 100% chance that this will change throughout the year, but for now, this seems to be the game plan for the foreseeable future. Got quite the jam-packed schedule as per usual, but that's fine. With this routine, all of my stats will continue to level up. So, what a long video. I couldn't help myself as I needed to encapsulate everything I've achieved this year, my most productive year to date. I'm looking forward to 2023. I predict all these stats will continue to increase as I have the right plan to increase all of them, but I'm especially keen to see how the career and investment stats progress, since this upcoming year, it's entirely possible that I am done with my formal studies and I officially have land and real estate under my name. But I am excited for all these stats to increase. How did your 2022 go? Did you achieve your goals? Let me know. Hopefully you can draw some inspiration from this video and incorporate it into your New Year's resolution, if you have one. I don't. I have an everyday resolution, not a New Year's resolution. That is all.